Welcome to Allies or Enemies. This time we are talking about Atiwa, a 1 to 4 player game designed by Uwe Rosenberg. Atiwa is based in Ghana and local efforts to fight deforestation through a symbiotic relationship with fruit bats who eat fruit from faraway trees and come back to drop off the seeds. In the game, you play the part of a local village, learning the benefits of fruit bats and hopefully pooping and growing your way to sustainability and, more importantly, points. It is a fun game about an interesting concept, but for now, let's start with how it plays.
At the start of the game, each player has an empty village and a board full of possible wild animals, trees, fruit, villagers, and sheep, as well as a big shared pile of bats. As play progresses, you will be moving stuff from that board to your ever-growing village. Each round starts by taking turns playing your 3 workers to the main board and then getting the corresponding stuff. This might include things like adding land to your village, which provides more spaces to put things, getting gold, which is both points and currency, and training villagers so that they can house bats. After each action, you can also spend 1 fruit to send 3 bats to the cave and gain a tree. At the end of each round, you get income, take pollution for untrained villagers, feed all of your villagers, and check to see if you meet the round goals for free stuff. After 7 rounds, you add up your gold, points for stuff you took off your board, points from terrain and location cards, and all bats after your first 10 bats, so it works like 15 bats scores 5 points. And then the bat-friendliest villager is named.
If you own any of the previous team-ups between Uwe Rosenberg and Lookout Games, you already have a pretty good idea of what you'll get in this box. There are tons of great wooden bits, including more bat meeples than you can shake a stick at. Though you shouldn't shake a stick at them, they are trying to grow you trees. The actual boards are all nice and clear with easy to understand icons, with a place for everything, especially your home board, which perfectly lays out all of your possible goods, income benefits, and points. And the player aids are so good that you could almost learn this game without the rulebook. It does look very Euro, but in that warm, welcoming Uwe Rosenberg, Klemens, Franz kind of way that we all know and love.
Atiwa is one of the most accessible Uwe Rosenberg farming games out there. It has a really straightforward rule set, terrific player aids, and moving resources back and forth is super intuitive, and the feeding is nowhere near as punishing as a lot of his other games. If there was a Rosenberg gateway farming game, this might well be it. The downside to that, however, is that there isn't as much variation as you might find in one of his more complex games like Caverna or Feast for Odin. There are still a few different paths to victory, however, as you can go very heavy on bats, or create a villager resource strategy that clears off your board, or gain a lot of terrain and just gather gold. And there is some variation in how the round tiles go out and which terrain cards come up and when, but for the most part, pretty much the same options will be available each time you play in pretty much the same mix. That said, we are still learning and exploring after half a dozen or so plays, and we're still very happy to explore those same paths, so mileage may vary depending on your group.
Atiwa plays for 1 to 4 players, and mostly it adjusts to player count by switching out the puzzly section to the right of the board, which provides more or less of the training family and gathering gold actions, as well as a couple of gaining family actions at higher player counts. Other than this, the rest of the board stays the same, which means that for most actions, things feel quite a bit more open at 2 than they do at 4. At 4 players, you'll be racing to a lot of those best spots, and sometimes you'll need to make do or change paths based on what is left. At 2, things are a lot looser, and you can pretty much do what you want. We actually like both, but know that optimum player count might change based on how tight you like your play. There is also a solo mode, which works a lot like the system in A Feast for Odin. The player uses 3 sets of workers, leaving them on spaces for following rounds, which forces you to switch up your choices as you go. It is a best score mode, however, and there isn't a lot to stop you from taking roughly the same path each time you play, but it is still a fun challenge if you want an optimization puzzle.
We were excited to try Atiwa as soon as we heard the backstory, which really is fascinating, and it even has its own little booklet in the box. But thankfully, the gameplay really does live up to the theme. Uwe Rosenberg has done a great job of creating something that definitely draws a lot from the mechanics that you would expect in one of his farming games, while also adding plenty of new spin. The resource board creates such a clear picture of your engine. The balance of villagers to food to space is incredibly intuitive. And most of all, the bats are fun. They're fun to gain, they're fun to feed fruit to, and to poop trees out of. Also, because it is a bit more accessible than many Rosenberg games, this is one that you can introduce to new gamers. It does feel tighter at 4 players, though we still like it at 2. And it could get a bit samey after a bit, though it hasn't yet for us. But other than those caveats, if you want a fun farming game that doesn't take too long to play, has a very smooth system, and a fascinating theme, Atiwa might be worth echolocating. And that is it. Have you played Atiwa? And what is your favorite Uwe Rosenberg game? Let us know in the comments, and as always, please do like and subscribe. And hopefully, we will see you all next time for another game.